Hello, welcome back to the Single Society. This is the podcast where we explore being single from a more positive lens. My name is Jo, and it's great to have you here today. Some of you may already know that as well as releasing these podcast episodes, I also run singles nights. For those of you who are potentially open to meeting a romantic partner, but who are also wanting to get to know more single people in your local community. I think it's really valuable that we have safe spaces where we can connect in person and get to know people in our local area. Now, this is always very much a choice. As you will know if you've listened to the episodes as well, I always think that being single is a very valid choice to make, and it is just one of the options open to you. You might be single for a season of time, you might decide you want to be single permanently, you might be dating, looking for a serious relationship, marriage, a family. There are so many different options, and the important thing is that it is a choice that you actively make about what feels right for you. Now, normally I release episodes every Thursday, if not more regularly, but you will definitely have something on Thursdays to listen to. But this is the second kind of mini series within the podcast series. So I released 7 episodes altogether on the theme of consent when it comes to singles nights. If you haven't listened to those yet, by all means, do go back and listen to that after this episode as well. There's lots of information there. And this is the first episode in another series of 7, also exploring the behind the scenes of singles nights. But this time, I am going to be telling you the most common mistakes I see people make at singles nights. Now, I have been running these for quite some time. They started out in Manchester, they're now in Preston, they're in York. It may be that since I've recorded this, there are even more singles nights popping up near you as well. So do check in the description if you're interested in coming along. You can definitely find singles nights in those 3 places, if not others near you as well. So I see people at singles nights regularly, at least a couple of times a week, and there are event hosts running them in other areas as well. And with that, I have gathered a lot of knowledge about some of the common mistakes that I see people make. And I have pulled that knowledge and I'm going to share it with you in this episode and the 6 that follow it, so you can avoid making those mistakes yourself. Now, the first one that I want to talk about and the focus of today's episode is people being late. Now, this is very human, very understandable. I promise I'm not judging you. But honestly, one of the biggest mistakes that I see people make is arriving late to a singles night. And I get the motivation why when I chat to people, the most common thing that people will say to me is they came late because they wanted there to already be a buzz in the room. They wanted to be able to just slip in. They think it will be less awkward. I get the logic with that because that kind of holds if you were going to a party. If you were going to an event where you already kind of know people, but maybe you're not like best friends with the person hosting, I do get that logic. It doesn't work with a singles night. It's a lot harder to slip into a group that's already formed. The vast majority of people come to the singles nights that I run by themselves. And if you arrive half an hour plus late, people have already made friends, the dynamics are already starting to set. It's actually harder to slip in. The best time to arrive is when the event is scheduled to start. So for the events that I run, that's almost always 7:30 p.m. or 8 p.m. There might be an exception. By all means, do check the specific event for details, but almost always for myself, that's going to be a 7:30 or an 8 o'clock start. Please do your best to get there for the beginning of the event. I completely appreciate that it's not always possible. We're all just human, things come up, life happens. Genuinely, that is okay. You will always be welcomed into the night. What I'm talking about here is when people make an intentional choice to come late. It's a bad decision. Honestly, it doesn't work. To give you a really extreme example of this, I once had a guy come an hour and a half into an event. So it started at 7:30 and he showed up just after 9. And he got there and he was like, "Oh, am I the last one here?" And I was like, "Oh, yeah, you are actually, yeah." And he was like, "Oh, brilliant." And in my head, I was just like, No, not brilliant. And I had three women who'd got to know each other on the night come over to me afterwards. I was at the bar getting him some water, and they said, has he just arrived?" And I was like, "Yeah, he's just managed to get here." And they were like, "Gosh, okay, did he apologize?" And I was like, he didn't actually." And they all three of them just instantly went, "Nope." Because the reality is, if you can't organise yourself to get there for more or less the start time of the event, how ready are you to be someone's partner? It doesn't look good. You need to show up as your best self. Be on time, be ready to go, be friendly, be approachable. Very normal to be nervous. Please don't get me wrong. That's absolutely fine. Of course it is. Most people have that flutter of nerves when they first arrive, and we'll do everything we can to put you at your ease. But do make sure that you're there for the start of the event. The other reason that this is so important is that that kind of first half an hour to an hour window is where everyone's looking around the room, seeing if there's anyone they find attractive, getting settled in, potentially even starting to swap numbers and things. So it's where all that initial chemistry is taking place. Why would you miss that window? It just doesn't make any sense. If you walk in late, people have already kind of started deciding who they might be interested in, whose number they're going to ask for, and if you stroll in really late, you've missed that. You've missed that initial window of opportunity. Now, you might be able to kind of work that back, but it is less likely. So please do everything you can to make sure that you're on time. Now, again, just to reiterate, it's honestly fine if something comes up, you get stuck at work, there's terrible traffic, whatever it might be. There's so many valid reasons to be late. What I would say is, if that happens for you, when you arrive, just let the event host know. Just say, "I'm so sorry, X came up." Obviously, only give us as much detail as you're comfortable, but us knowing that really helps, because we will then go above and beyond to try and help counteract this. If we know you've not deliberately just strolled in late, something's actually happened, we will go above and beyond to make sure we still introduce you to everybody in the room, to make sure that you get the full advantage of the event, and so hopefully you don't feel the negative effects of this too much. There is only so much we can do. However much of the event you've missed, you have unfortunately missed at that point, but we will really try. There's a huge difference in intention, and it shows as well. Because the other thing is that, what made them kind of, the ladies in the story I told go, "Ooh, no," was that he didn't seem to care. And that's the big difference. So, this is point number one, mistakes to avoid at singles night. Please do not arrive late, get there for the start time. If you haven't already, make sure that you are following or subscribed wherever you're listening to this, and then you will be able to see the next 6 episodes in this series so that you do not make these common mistakes at singles nights. I'll see you in the next episode.